Well, here we are, an impromptu spoiler room bonus episode, if you will. Our wonderful friend here, Cati Glidewell of the Blond in Front, is with us tonight. How are you, Cati?
I'm doing pretty well. Pretty good. Pretty good. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing well, and I appreciate you. This is the imaginary film support group we're holding tonight as we try to figure out this film a bit because it is a bit befuddling, I would say.
That is an adjective to use for it. Yes, mine may be a little harsher, but yes,
Yeah,
I
yes.
there's definitely many adjectives to use for this film.
There are many adjectives. Did
Yes.
you want to try to give the synopsis, or I could just read it off of IMDb too? That's the
Why don't you give us, because I'm
okay. I'll
guessing
try.
that I think the synopsis from IMDb is not necessarily correct.
Well, according to synopsis from IMDb, a woman returns to her childhood home to discover that the imaginary friend she left behind is very real and unhappy that she abandoned him. Um, kind of. That's
Yeah, I
it.
mean that would have been, I feel like if the core of the film would have been that, yes.
But that's like a subplot to what
Yeah.
actually is going on with this, which they leave out the part. Basically, DeWanda Wise plays Jessica, who's the stepmom to a family of she's got her husband who has two daughters. She's got two stepdaughters, and they move to her family home after her dad gets put into an assisted living. They don't exactly say why they moved to the house. They just left their wonderful apartment to go uproot their family and go live in her family house. While there, the youngest of the family starts connecting. She finds this mysterious bear in the basement, and she suddenly has an imaginary friend named Chauncey. And Chauncey talks to her and has her do these unusual things. Well, as things go along, these tasks that Chauncey has, the little girl, Alice, go figure. You know where this is going, right? Her name is literally Alice on the nose there.
Scared Jessica to death. Yeah.
She she further starts doing more dangerous things on this task list, and we come to find out that yes, it is an imaginary friend, one that is one that lived in the house when Jessica was there. And soon things take a turn and they end up in hell, basically, like Hellraiser. Like there was missing a Cenobites, really. And the torture, it was like a kid level version of the Hellraiser world, to where she's got to go try to rescue this girl before she gets eaten by her imaginary friend and kept in the imaginary world forever. Um, yeah. As you saw the title, folks, of this, there's spoilers. It's a spoiler room. We're giving spoilers right away because this film is. Yeah, Cati. Credits. Credits roll. How'd you feel?
There's a lot of so much plausible plot lines in the film that I was like, why was that needed? Were you just trying to like spread out time and stuff? And then there's a couple of continuity things too. It's like I'm a stickler with that. It's like, oh, so you've been painting the room, you've got a blue mark in your head. Oh, it's 3 seconds later, you don't have that blue mark in your head. Oh, now we're going back to the room and you magically have that blue mark on your head. Who is in charge of this? Like that, I mean, you have a bright blue, sky blue mark on your head. Who was not paying attention when this was going on? And those are things that annoy me. There's one of the things, this is spoiler. So one of the things that Alice, when she has Chauncey, she always says that Chauncey is always hungry. Chauncey, I feel you, buddy. Like I
Yes.
honestly, dude, I'm maybe not as hungry as Chauncey all the time, but it's like Chauncey always wants to eat. And we find out that Chauncey is a demon that lives in this world called the Never Ever that was majorly influenced by what is it? MC Escher
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
Beetlejuice and Labyrinth, which is
Mhm.
fine because
Yeah.
honestly, I thought that was one of the best parts of the film. I would have actually liked to explore that a little bit more. One of the things, though, is that Chauncey feeds off the imagination of children. So it seemed to me like when he had Alice in the Never Ever and, you know, all these imaginations, all that stuff, I actually would have liked it if maybe and if you understand the whole thing with Beetlejuice and MC Escher, there's a lot of like never ending staircases that, you know, just go up and down, and like a hallway with all these doors, and the black and white checker flooring. Again, heavily influenced by Beetlejuice. Fine, looked great production design. But I would have liked to have seen that it's like, I mean, if these kids that in their imagination, if that's Chauncey's lifeblood and all that stuff, then what happens if you just keep these kids longer and longer? Because it doesn't seem like Chauncey would just eat them, because it's like this is what's keeping them alive. So it would have been kind of interesting if, you know, when they went in some of these doors, there would have been like adults that have been there like all their lives that keep drawing or keep doing this, and this is why Chauncey keeps getting, you know, it keeps is able to survive. Because I mean, I would think he would have been shriveled up, especially if not having Jessica for 20 to 25 years. And let's get into that. Because let's get into that, kids. So as Mark said, Jessica is returning to her childhood home that she left when she was 5. Now, one of the reasons why Jessica's husband has children is because he divorced his wife,
Oh my
and
God,
she
yes.
had
Yeah.
a psychotic break or did something where she scalded the crap out of their young daughter. Now, I don't know when. We don't know when this has happened. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you see the scars, and it's like it's a doozy of a scar on her arm. But the fact is that Jessica left her childhood home when she was 5 because her mom had cancer. She died. And then she said, from what her understanding is, that her dad abused, like, they don't really say what he did, like if he cut her or something. She also has a big scar on her arm. So she had to be taken away from her father. And then apparently her father stayed in the house for another 25 years or so. But it also says that in the film that he was blinded, because we find out that he actually didn't try to hurt Jessica, but Chauncey actually hurt Jessica and scratched her arm. And then when her dad was taking her out of the Never Ever, which is this place where Chauncey lives, that much like it and the spider, the glow of the spider blinded him, but he was able to shut the door. There's a lot of things in this film that are going to look very familiar. There were so many questions regarding that. So it's like, so your dad abused you and you had to leave the home, and that's where you left your childhood home, but then the dad stayed in the childhood home and didn't go to jail or anything like that by himself.
There's so many dangling participles in this plot. It is amazing. It really is.
And then let's get into the ex-wife, because it's like we find out that the ex-wife like burned Alice, but we don't really know what happened to the ex-wife. And then when Alice is having a tea party with Chauncey in a room, you know, Jessica looks in and she sees Chauncey in the chair, and Alice like speaking in British an accent, like, oh, this is a scone, all this because my daddy is British and all stuff. And then it's like, wait, someone else is in there, and it turns out it's her mom, who
like legitimately her actual mom, not imaginary,
who escaped from the institution or wherever she was because her 15-year-old older sister thought that mom was doing better and gave her the new address. I'm like, there's so many logistics in that. And I mean, it's like, I don't know where this woman lives. Did she take a bus? Did she fly? Because I mean, it's like, and I know these are dumb things to think about, but it's like, dude, what are we dealing with? Like, why not just focus on the bear? I get that you're having this trauma bonding with Alice and Jess. It's like, I was hurt by a parent too. Okay, I feel like there's something else. I mean, obviously you guys had to have like had some sort of relationship because you're married to her dad now. You're not just dating. I mean, you're married to her dad because there's at least a wedding photo in there. And I don't know. I just felt like there were so many holes with that didn't need to even be introduced into that, into the story. I did like the practical effects for Chauncey. And there is a scene that I made sure it is with a wishing machine when you're in the Never Ever, where the older sister is like in this room. It is in the trailer. It looks amazing on the big screen, kids. Let me tell you, where that wishing machine. I mean, one of the things about this film, if anyone jumps at any of the jump scares, it's like, I don't feel like you need to be jumping. Like you could be strolling along and get there because they're very predictable. It's not like this is like, oh my God, I did not see that coming for a minute and 15 seconds because that's how much you built it up. But that the wishing machine room, that was amazing. Big Chauncey, which is actually a actor in a huge bear costume. Nice job. Keep doing more of that. I want to see more of that. There's also, and this is one of those things, like this is why I don't watch trailers. I watched the trailer after I saw the movie. There's a number of scenes in the basement where you see like this like kind of faceless, like gray sort of man that's in the basement that we see as an audience, but no one else sees and all that stuff. Well, in the trailer, it's like there's a picture of this faceless man that's gray and a picture that Jess sees. And I was like, that's not in the movie. No. So why? Come on. I thought we got away from that in 1996. Like, come on. What are we doing? And it's like, I mean, obviously we as an audience have to figure out, not like they have to spoon feed it to. It's like, okay, so that's the demon. And I guess he's like gray. And that's why he has to take these imaginations of these kids to like, feed off of. But I don't know. And then there's the whole thing with Betty Buckley. If you want to get to that, let's get into that.
I had the feeling, one, that this is two separate movies. For one, you've got two separate movies going on in here. You have the part that's happening in reality, which I actually kind of found interesting, especially, again, folks, this is a twist. I liked the hook that there never was a bear. I thought that was sold really well, that she sees the bear, but there isn't actually a bear. Alice sees a bear. That's her imagination. And that's what Jessica sees. And I'm thinking back of how they did everything, and you'll get the montage, so you don't have to think about it. They'll show you where there actually wasn't a bear. But I like that. I'm like, okay, I see where you're going. And I figured it'd stay in reality. And then they go through the door. And then, like I said, folks, it's literally like a kid's version of Hellraiser, where they go in here and it's kind of got this nightmare thing. And I understand it's on a limited budget, but they literally have the DIY make a storm in your kid's bedroom in the hallways with the cotton and the LED lights, which on one hand I thought was cool. On the other hand, I'm like, on the big screen, that looks kind of cheap. This is looking like 80s, effects, but that's okay. I'm all right. It's a kid's imagination thing, but you are so right about so many different things it borrows from. Look, folks, my mom got remarried way when I was older, not when I was a teenager, but my mom divorced, and she had a boyfriend, a very long time boyfriend, who she eventually married, who was like a stepdad. I don't get the trope of, oh, this is the step parent, so I'm going to hate you. It felt so contrived with the Taylor character, who, mad props to Tegan Burns. She tries to do the best with the role she's got, but it's like her only purpose is to stand there and stare at things.
Yes, with cut off T-shirts. Which, by the way, let me just. I love how both Jessica and Taylor are always wearing like tank tops and cut off t-shirts, and yet Alice and Betty Buckley are like head to toe layers.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things again that I'm like, and this is just me, I'm like, what season? It's like, are they going to school? Are they not going to school? Like Alice, I think, is old enough to go to school, and it seems like Taylor maybe goes to school, but I don't know. What? And with you saying the whole thing about, you know, the only people who see the bear are Jess or Alice, but then there's the whole sequence where there's a boy next door called Liam, I believe.
He can see the bear. Yeah.
He can see the bear. So there's a whole thing where he's trying to woo Taylor and get her to take some pills, which it's like, I don't know. And apparently he's a number of years older than her. Taylor is 15, which we have established. But he goes upstairs to the bathroom where for some reason, and he already calls Alice a psycho because she's like doing some stuff, which like, look, he seems like a prick anyway. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
but
you can swear. That's fine.
Yeah. He goes upstairs. There's a whole sequence where there's like the string that Chauncey has where he kind of says stuff, but doesn't really say stuff. I don't know. And they're supposed to be, but Liam can see that. Liam can see like a blanket with a bear under it. Liam can see like this creature that attacks him. That's like a giant bear with all these teeth. So when they do the whole thing that Jess and Alice are the only ones that can see him, I wanted to say, oh yeah, and Liam. Did we forget about that kid? Like, does he have an imagination, or is it just from his mom's allergy pills that he thought were going to be some sort of drugs to like get his little preteen girl high? Like what's going on here with that? And yeah, I agree with you. That whole thing with Taylor being like, you're my stepmom. You know, my real mom just abused my little sister. Right? Like, God, it's like, shh, why are you here? It's like, well, maybe because your mom abused your little sister. Why are we? I get it. She's your mom, but the freaking scar on her arm. Come on, girl. Why? What? I don't think this is the hill you want to die on. Like, really, I really don't.
It was so tropish. I'm like sitting here going, did you just look at a 80s early 9 trope book? I mean, from the creepy neighbor boy who tries to drug her. I'm like, that's like 30 years ago. I'm like, what where is this film supposed to be? Because yeah, you had that, and then yeah, you're talking about the mom, going back to the mom with the insane aside. I'm like, she was a committed patient that abused her child, and she managed to escape and attack Jessica, no less. And the cops come and take mom back. I'm like, how close are they to the asylum? And this is modern times, so they have cell phones. So why not call and say, hey, your crazy wife just got out of the asylum. You should be on the lookout. But there's none of that. She happens to just wander into their house. And if it's implied that maybe the mom came through the imaginary world, that is not set up at all. The world building, there's great concepts and ideas. None of the execution works. It's like they did not do any world building. They had ideas for a world, but they came up with no real rules. And you need those. You're a horror fan. You're a horror fan. You know that. You need some kind of rules if you're going to do like a dream world type thing.
Yeah, especially a dream world. And I know you were saying that they had a limited, but this was 13 million. That's actually a lot. That's considerably more that Blumhouse usually does, you know, their films. I mean, it is in what, like, I mean, they have the Never Ever, which I think that's where all the budget went. Like, honestly, I think that's where the majority of the budget went. You have the childhood house, you have the place, the living center where the dad is. You've got one scene at a hotel, and then you have the apartment in the beginning. I like the stuff with the Jessica is a child author, and she has these children's books with a spider and a millipede. and stuff like that. I don't know if that's going to work for kids, honestly. I think maybe parents aren't going to deal with that. It's like, nope. Because I know plenty of my friends that if they didn't, it doesn't even need to be a real spider. It's
Yeah.
like when you hear spider, they're like, nope. And to have the spider, you know, Alice helps her with a book. She's like, she has writer's block. It's like, well, what if, you know, Simon the spider is just mad because he just wants to be with his friend, and that's why he treats her badly. And I'm like, what message then are we bringing to the children that's what it's like? Oh, so here's a narcissistic, gaslighting spider that's trying to help, that be, you know, this is why he's abusing you, because he just is sad that you're gone and that you're running away. Run. Do not give this book to your children. This is horrible. This is a horrible message. This is a horrible message to have a spider. Like, I'm being mean to you because I really like you. No, stop. Again, what era are we in?
That's what I couldn't peg what era this film was supposed to be in, because I'm like a lot of this stuff I thought, you know, got dead and buried in the early 90s with horror, you know, all of these tropes and stuff that they bring out in this. And then for their world building, as I said, folks, this is horrible world building because it's two different movies. Once the little girl, Alice, suddenly creates a door and she goes through it or whatnot, we cut to what you were mentioning, Gloria, played by Betty Buckley, and suddenly we get exposition dump for like ever. It's like all this exploration into what the never ever is gets dumped in it. And my son went with me, honorable son one went with me, and he had to explain to me because I was wondering why Taylor was referring to the imaginary friend as Bing Bong.
Oh yeah, Inside Out.
Yeah, I missed the one sentence where they reference Inside Out. I missed it because my brain was trying to think of other things, so it didn't connect right away because she was calling it Big Bong. I'm like, why are you she's calling it Chauncey? Why are you calling it? And then it's like, then my son, he's like, yeah, well, no, he's like, they said one sentence briefly, a toss off reference that, you know, obviously I missed, but it's like suddenly this becomes a very prevalent reference. And Betty Buckley's Gloria starts doing this exposition dump, and you think she's an ally, but then they give her a villain turn.
Oh no. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah. You think she's like gonna help. She's gonna be that like wise person that'll get you out. Like, oh no. She apparently has like in league with Chauncey, which it's like, what? How? What? And it's like, oh, I used to be your nanny. It's like, maybe you were the lady next door who would babysit me, but you're not my nanny. She's not your nanny. Your nanny wouldn't live in the same neighborhood for you because the nanny would imply that that's your job.
Yeah.
You live in the same neighborhood. You've stayed there all these years. You've been begging for her to come back. She comes back. Jess, I'm saying with she.
Jessica,
Jess comes back. And Gloria's like, all right, we're going to stay here. It's like, and I don't understand. What was the end game with Gloria? Like, what did she think was going to happen? That she could do anything in this world and stuff like that? It's like, I feel like maybe if you started out there and it was feeding off your imagination, but it's like, girl, you have an imagination. You like made these books and stuff. It's like, Chauncey don't want you. Chauncey's using you again, gaslighting you, Gloria. Chauncey gaslit you just like this. So this is an elementary school version of gaslighting. Like, watch to see how Chauncey was gaslighting Alice, and like all these people are just like fed all this stuff. It's like, oh no, you're crazy. Like, you, of course, everyone can see the bear. No, only you can see the bear. And then,
it's that's what I'm, horror miser Monty G, a good friend of ours. He commented on how he liked the concept, but the execution was poor. And that's exactly it with this. There's some wonderful ideas in here. Yeah. When they got into the never ever, I thought it was going to be like Dream Warriors, where they could do anything with their imagination. So it was going to be them versus Chauncey and his, Monsters Inc. from hell, where there's all different imaginary friends, and they They could have done stuff like that, but they spend the first 2/3 of this film with this family dynamic bullshit. Pardon my French, but it's true. There's this contrived family tension for whatever reason, and creepy guy who lives in neighborhood, that when they could have been playing so much more with the ever after, the never after, and Chauncey and all of that. They could have played with that more, but it's like they couldn't make up their mind. I mean, it doesn't surprise me though, because Fantasy Island was similar, and it's done by the same director.
And he also did Truth or Dare. Now, what those three films have in common, you have a strong women in the title characters in all three of those films, which I feel like with Truth or Dare, the spoiler for this, Truth or Dare, the protagonist in Truth or Dare ends up being the antagonist in Fantasy Island, which I will be honest was my worst film of 2020, I believe. 2021.
It was bad. It was not good.
Oh Lord, let's go into that's a whole other thing. But with that, with Fantasy Island, then you had Maggie Q, who was, ended up having that strong lead role and really showcased, what she can do, a number of things she can do as an actress. And I feel like that's also led to like more starring roles for her. And good. I think she's a great actress. Similar to this, DeWanda Weiss is amazing. I just feel like she is just so captivating. She just, once the camera is on her, honestly, you can't look away. I loved her in Jurassic Park Dominion. She was one of my favorite characters in that. I wish she would have been in more of it. So one of the things when I saw her, that she was in this, which again, I never look at the trailers or anything like that. I was like, great. I know you. That's good. So I'm going to see more of you in this and all that stuff. Yes, this is not the film that I would hope that but look, she's the starring role in this. I'm hoping this is just going to lead to more starring roles for her. And you've got 4 women who, I include Alice in that, who honestly, all their performances are great. The Tom Payne, who is from like The Walking Dead and who plays the husband / father.
Could have been anybody.
Yeah. You could have just had a picture of him like next to the bed. And then he's like, oh no, my wife got out. I'd say, okay, guys, I'm going on tour. I'll see you later. It's like, oh, okay. But it's also like he was like gone from the house a lot when he wasn't on tour. So I was like, wait, so what do you do? Like, I don't need to know this, but it's like, I'm just confused why you're not there.
He didn't need to be there. And you're right. Piper Braun, who plays Alice, for a young actress, she carries this role well. She holds her own. I loved her performance. You're right. I loved DeWanda Weiss. I even though I joke about it, Tegan Birds as the sister, I liked all of their roles. I wish they would have had a better script and story, because they're putting their all into these cliche, tropish, poorly written roles in a story that is uneven and just doesn't have a lot of thought behind it. It's almost as if they're like, hey, they're coming out with that If movie with Imaginary Friend. Hey, we could do a horror spin on that. And here's a bunch of ideas. Let's just piece them together, and there's your film. There you go.
No, you're completely right. And all like Alice, Taylor, and Jessica all have like emotional scenes. Like when Taylor, freaks out to her dad, it's like when her mom is like put in the paddy wagon, or it's like, I thought she was getting better. I gave her our address because I thought she was getting better, and I didn't know. I'm so sorry. And it's like, look, that was a good performance. It's more that why did you get honestly, she burned the hell out of your sister. That's a whole other thing. I'm always gonna be annoyed by that. It's like, it's one thing if you guys had a fight or something and the
Yeah.
marriage broke up, but she burned your sister. Like,
That really didn't feel legit. I'm like, I don't have siblings myself. I'm an only child, by choice. No, just kidding. We won't say what I did to potential no. But my wife has a couple siblings. My two boys are siblings in that, and I'm like sitting there going, if one of them was hurt by their crazy parent, they would be defending the youngest or whatever their sibling wholeheartedly and not want to have anything to do with crazy parent at all because it hurt they hurt their sibling, and
well,
yeah.
especially, I mean, and there's like there's an age gap too. Like,
Yeah.
we
Mhm.
know, and it's established in the film that Taylor is 15. I don't feel like we know for sure how old Alice is, but she's young enough that she has imaginary friends and kind of tries to take this like motherly aspect to her because she wants to be a guardian to her. And it was like, nice one, Jess. And does that. And I mean, she does those lines very teenage bitchily, like chef's kiss. Like, girl,
Yeah.
you nailed it. Like, that is the way it's like, that's cute. Like, we'll have the nicknames to us. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, that was real bitchy. Beautifully.
Yeah. But there's just so many things in the film. I mean, I will say this. They did not have a press screening in Chicago, which I thought was very interesting. One, I did and we even kind of joked about this, and I was like, oh, maybe because of the stuff with Night Swim, they didn't do a press screening because then everyone would butcher it and tank it before it came out. Which, if that is the case, if that's the reason why they didn't have the press screening, because it's like, look, I think the trailer's great. Like, after I watch the film and then watch the trailer, it's like, I would see that movie. Well done, Blumhouse. And if you're not going to have anyone do any pre-screenings or press screenings so people can talk about it beforehand and just focus it on the trailer and keep putting the money to that, and, a very simple, no nonsense poster. I mean, the cost for it, the production, from what I saw on IMDb, was $13 million. I mean, you can make that in a weekend, which is kind of what Blumhouse does. They usually have like 6, 7, 10 million. I mean, reviewed Imaginary on another thing. I think The Purge they made for like 7 million and stuff like that. And that was like a while ago. You can clear that now, like in a day. Do I think they made their money back this weekend? I don't know. I don't think so. Do I think that it could probably make it back, this weekend and next weekend? Yeah. Do we need to have a Chauncey sequel? I mean, it honestly, this could be the stuffed version of Freddy Krueger. Because you can do this. We don't need to have Jess. I mean, even at the end, they do a little thing. It's like, oh, I forget that things like Roderick or something like that.
Yeah.
Like something like, it's like, whatever. I don't know what these like little British, like all the imaginary friends have to be like little British bears. Like, oh, let's do this. It's like, oh, Paddington. It's like, they can't do that because then that'll really make that money go up. It's like, oh, but I mean, there could be a sequel. At the end, I sort of got like a very kind of poltergeist thing when they go to the hotel.
Which didn't make a lot of sense.
And then they hear a bear. Someone's like, they see a bear and they think it's going to be Chauncey, and so it's some other kid with the bear. So they're like, you want to get out of here? Yeah, let's go. That just reminded me of Poltergeist at the end when they like have the TV and just shove it out the door. Look, these are all like little nods to amazing films that you have that nostalgia, like little vein in your heart or artery. And it's like, oh, that reminds me of this. Like, okay, well, that gives me, goosebumps. And, oh, I remember having the love for that. I don't feel like this is going to have the love for that. And again, a friend of mine said, my friend Neil, He said this is a very beginner's horror film. Other than that, it's meh. I don't think it's going to be on a worst or best list. I think it's probably going to be forgotten by the end of the year. And but don't forget DeWanda Weiss, because I think she's amazing and I want her to be in more things.
No, I totally agree. I think DeWanda Weiss was made the most of the part she was given. I even said it in my review. She did her best. If you ever want an example of the importance of a good screenplay, Imaginary's that example, because there's a lot of ideas, not a really good screenplay, but you got a lot of talent in front of it. And you're right. All the callbacks to other films who did it better is all that you're going to remember out of this film. Whether it's suddenly Alice who realizes Chauncey isn't the best, but then she goes to the never ever land to where Chauncey is giving her everything she wants, and she's okay with this suddenly. But I don't, like you said, Gaslight. It's literally a kid's version of Gaslight.
So then Chauncey's love bombing.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of words that you may have to look up in this review. That's all about manipulation and how not to treat people that you actually love. Chauncey love bombs Alice, and Alice is fine with that. I mean, everybody likes to have gifts and all that stuff. It's like, it's like, this is the best place ever. Oh yeah. And then there's a scene where Jessica thinks that they're out and they're like all good and it's fine, and then she realized she's back in the never ever, and people have like these like,
I laughed.
Yes,
they laughed.
They have like these like black doll eyes that kind of like stick out, so they sort of look like an insect.
Yeah,
but they're supposed to be doll eyes. And then she realizes it's like, oh, I'm still in the never ever. I never left, and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know about. Is this supposed to be scary? I don't know. Again, it's one of the things, like the jump scares seem to be like more like walking scares. It's like this definitely wasn't a marathon scares. Like, it took a while and they were very obvious when they were coming up. But
I don't get the bug-eyed thing. I literally chuckled when she's like, oh, this is, and all of us who have seen enough surreal nightmare, on Elm Street type of films, this is wrapping up way too cleanly, way too quickly. You're like, okay, no, she's still in the never ever. And sure enough, but when they got their bug eyes, I just chuckled. I'm like, am I supposed to be laughing? Because they look ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be Chauncey's eyes, but it's like, all I got is that it's like, you guys look like bugs. And I get that you're supposed to have like Chauncey's black eyes, and that the whole thing is that when you look in Chauncey's eyes, you can see a land that goes on forever and all that stuff. It's like, okay, that's great, but that's not what I got that Jessica was seeing when she saw that. That's not what I was seeing. All I thought, it's like, now you guys look like insects, which doesn't make sense to me. It's like, oh, but you're trying to have Chauncey's bear eyes.
Yeah.
How much longer is this film? Like,
and then there's the whole, her dad went blind by looking into the eyes and viewing the millions of children's imagination. I'm like, okay, I kind of dig that concept. But then, of course, it's called back again later on when Alice and the two sisters are trying to escape, and Chauncey's coming through, and he hits the glow eyes on Jessica for almost as long as it hit the glow eyes on Dad. But maybe because there are two people there, she doesn't go blind or crazy at all from that. Nay, she's fine. Mm-hmm. And then the poltergeist ending made no sense. I'm like, that's not your imaginary friend. Why are you running out of the hotel? It's supposed to be tied to you. It's like, ideas thrown at a wall to see what sticks.
Taylor would not know what that bear looked like.
Yeah.
Because Taylor apparently never saw the bear. And then you're trying to do, it's like, oh, because Taylor sees it too. What? Or no, she says, I see it too.
Yeah.
And she even says it. It's like, how would you know what the bear looked like though? I mean, yes, it's a bear and stuff, but yeah, that whole glow eyes, it's like, really? Now you're like, trying to do it. It's like it, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of ideas that they thought, you know what, no one's going to remember this from this, and no one's going to remember this, little bit from this. But if you've watched enough horror movies and you love enough horror movies, and then you rewatch those horror movies, you're gonna know, you're gonna remember, and you're gonna call them out. I think, yeah, it's not a great script. Production design, I thought was great. The actresses, I thought was great. You definitely could have had the dad in just a photo, and that was it. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, if I could, who knows? If it makes the money, I could probably see this being a franchise.
Well, it made 10 million over the weekend because
really,
according to a report I saw, it made 10 million over 2 or 3 days that it was out, 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I mean, because us horror fans will go see anything in the theater that's horror. I mean, we'll fully admit it, even if it doesn't look good. I think what's disappointing and what we're getting now is we started to have this horror renaissance to where you started getting all these wide release horror films, and it was great for us horror fans because a lot of those horror films were far better than what we all expected them to be. But now I think studios are writing that coattails and thinking they can just toss out anything, and it's going to decline again, I have a feeling, because this year so far, I have not been impressed with any horror film that has come out, and body counts, folks. We have a very low body count in all horror films so far this year, like 2, maybe 3.
Well, in this one, there was like what? Only one?
I guess you could count one because the old
Gloria
is
spoiler. Gloria does not make it.
No.
Betty, any 8 is Enough fans, yeah, she's not gonna make it.
But then you had that in Night Swim too, and it's like, and then when I watched what was it, The Conjuring, The Red Door, there was no body count at all. I'm like, the last horror film that had any substantial body count that was in the theater, I think, was Saw. Everything after that has been implied, maybe, or whatnot, but nothing really, I'm like, are we afraid to go there, or are they just,
I don't know. I feel like there's a number of things, like I know, like if you have a body count, then it's going to be considered like gore. If you have anyone who has like consensual sex, then it's going to be considered pornography. I feel like and I understand, like with COVID, there was a number of films that didn't get theater releases, which is a damn shame. Like Fresh, No One Will Save You, Prey, even the new Hellraiser. I like all 4 of those films, honestly, should have been, I would have loved to have seen them in the theater. And I think all of those, they had great scripts. They had, each one of them had different things going on with them. And each one of those films ended up being, I know, in my top 10 list for horror films of the years they were in. Fresh, I believe, was my number 1. I love that one with Sebastian Stan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's definitely not, there's a little bit of blood in this one, because they definitely have a scene where Chauncey has a list of all these things that you have to do to get to the Never Ever. And one of them is like something that causes you like true pain. And Alice is going to like take her hand and stab it onto a dirty nail, which Chauncey makes her see it, and it's like a flower, which I'm like, okay, because riddle me this. If this is supposed to be causing you pain, then why? It's like, because you're killing the flower? Is that what's going to cause you pain? Because kid, I worry about you. I really do. If like mushing that flower do you not I don't know. You're very small, and I understand you got a lot of stuff going on, but I don't know.
That sums up this film. I don't know. I think we'll end it there. That I don't know what they were trying to go for, but whatever it was, it didn't come across. And at the end, you're left with a meh. It's
Oh,
yeah,
one more thing.
yeah.
A typical, and then one more thing.
Yes.
Then you've got a ghost child in the Never Ever.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which, why?
That's right, the ghost child. I completely forgot about the ghost child.
I mean, they show a child that went to the Never Ever, because it's like apparently the Alice's therapist treated a kid like years ago who like cut off his thumb, and then it's like, my bear Bobo or whatever his name was, it's like he told me to do it, and then he was never seen from again. Why didn't you have that kid as a ghost child?
More ghost children. You needed more ghost children.
Ghost children. Or again, I would have it's like if you had someone in the Never Ever that was a ghost child and then kept doing it, because that's the thing. It's not like Chauncey was going to eat Jessica. He wanted Jessica to be down there so she could keep drawing and keep using her imagination, because that's what he feeds on. So I would have liked to have seen someone that's like, I've been here for this many years. It's like, is Alf still on? And then you can understand like what the year was that they were like started the Never Ever. It's like, it's like, oh, is Growing Pains still, Kirk Cameron was my crush. Is he still like number one on Team Beat? It's like, oh girl, you've been way too long. I mean, that could have been something like it's like, or again, more ghost children, but I don't know. Would that lead to like Sinister? And I mean, we already kind of have a little bit of Sinister with all the drawings along the wall and stuff like that, which the dad kept because I guess he's blind. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either.
Because he went blind and crazy, so he got to stay in his house. Is that how we're trying to like? This is what happens in the late 90s, kids. You could abuse your kid, apparently abuse your kid, have an injury, and then lose your mind and still keep your house, because that's how America was in the late 90s.
That's exactly how it was. This film, I tell you, it's sad to see so much potential wasted in a horror film like this that had something that could have possibly launched a far more interesting world and everything. Maybe this decade's, Nightmare on Elm Street type of thing with dealing with imagination. But in the end of the day, it's going to be one you're going to forget. And it's one that I'd just wait for streaming. It's going to be on one of the services, and you can watch it there with some popcorn and then move on with your life. So, and we're going to go ahead.
We shall also.
We shall also. Yes, exactly. We're going to move on with our lives as well. We hope you enjoyed this bonus episode as we kind of deconstruct imaginary. Katie, as always, License to Shill is yours. Where can they find your stuff at?
You can find me on the Blond in Front on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. I also am a guest on different podcasts and panels and vlogcasts on Earth's Mightiest Critics, Cinephile Hissy Fit, Radio of Horror, and Postmortem Radio, among others. So find me and let's talk some shop.
You are a person in demand, and we are very honored to have you here, folks. Check out all of Katie's stuff. Thank you so much. And now, until next time, we'll just say good night, everyone. Hey everyone, looking for more Spoiler Room goodness? Then head on over to patreon.com/specialmarkproductions, where you can get access to even more wonderful podcast content. Hear the conversation that happens before the live broadcast. You can also get access to an exclusive VIP episode that you vote on that's especially for you, or get early access to all our videos on YouTube, plus more. So check it out there, folks. And the more you do there, the more we can do here. And remember, with the Spoiler Room, the conversation is fresh, but we do spoil the movies.